Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Mom Your Own Way. I'm Lily Coco. I'm really excited because I feel like it took a kind of a big break. Really excited to just jump back in. My guest today is Lenora Edwards, who's an LSP, and she's been working with Better Speech. She's got over 10 years of experience. We're a little late starting because we got to chatting, and I was already excited to talk to her, but I'm now even more excited to talk to her. So let's just jump right in. Hello, Lenora Edwards.
Good morning, you amazing woman.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm so good to catch everybody up. We hopped on and this is our first time meeting. Lenora, thank you for reaching out. I'm so happy you liked the podcast and said, hey, I'd love to hop on.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to learn from you. I feel like, you know how people often talk about how their significant other is a soulmate, right? I feel like we also have like slighter less soulmates, but that we can find in people and in friends. Kind of almost like our souls just know each other. Maybe they've met before. Maybe they've like high-fived or gave each other a hug when they were kids at a playground, to a point where we're like, hey, you're rooting for me. Right.
Completely.
Right. And so I'm so excited to get to talk to you, to learn more about you. And we've already scheduled our next podcast together because there's going to be a lot.
I am so excited to spend time with you. So yes, I am a speech language pathologist with Better Speech, and I am a part of a team that is over 150 speech language pathologists strong, and all of our services are completely online. We've been online since long before the pandemic, so we are very comfortable online.
I love that. Tell me more about the online factor of it. Are people tuning in for videos or a Zoom call like this, or how can they?
Absolutely. So we are actually therapy online. So before, if you were having services in school or if you were having outpatient services, our services are right in the comfort of your own home, which is absolutely incredible because we are also in the area that your child is most comfortable in, but also on your schedule.
I love
So
that.
important.
I love. You know what's more important than your schedule is your child's schedule. Because when they say, no, I don't want to go, I almost feel like, why am I going to bring you to this thing to help when you're already having a bad time? You're going to have bad energy going into it. You know, it's not going to be as received, it's going to be kind of like, standoffish. And so to allow that comfort for them to feel safe and then approach with, the helpful.
Completely. So even if you think about, you 8-year-old after a day of school, or somebody if they're experiencing special needs and they're very sensory sensitive, asking them to leave school and then to go to an outpatient clinic where you have to drive and you have to deal with traffic and you have to deal with getting into the building, and then you have to hope that you're going to get the best session possible, is a lot of stress for them, and it doesn't always set them up for the most success.
Right.
So the fact that we are able to provide speech therapy services across the entire U.S., and we are also international, on your schedule, in the comfort of your own home, is supporting your child for success. And it is something we're incredibly proud of, especially with the pandemic at one point when my state is still in masks when you go to a clinic of any sort. And then to try and do therapy services with a shield or some other barrier,
Right.
it adds more stress to the whole situation. And the fact that we are on Zoom, and yes, we absolutely work with toddlers on Zoom, and we use games to make it fun and engaging, but they also get to take us around to in parts of their home. Like, here's where my bedroom is, and here's where I keep my stuffed animals, and here are my books. And so we really get to integrate into the family.
Right.
Which is so important. And I love that especially if in a school system, the parent might not be there for speech therapy services. In an outpatient clinic, the parent or guardian might not be there. But here, the parent and guardian are part of the therapy session. They get to record the therapy session. We get to work with them and explain what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it, and how to integrate it and make it functional in their everyday life. When you work with a speech pathologist or a therapist of any kind, you get a finite amount of time. So it's important that those strategies get carried over and are taught in the best, most supportive ways possible.
Right.
And, we've even had, grandma and grandpa were over and they watched the therapy session. And that's so great to be able to share so that they know what to do when we're not there and how to keep it consistent. And then that child understands even more. They're seen, they're heard, and they're understood.
There's so much to that, because I think that goes along with lines of anything. You learn a skill, but to actually really soak it in, to really use it, you've got to practice it. And when the parents know about the strategy, when they've seen the process and then they can replicate it, it gives the kid the opportunity to practice it again and again and again. Because there's difference of how you even ask the question. If you're saying just a yes or no question, you're going to get a yes or no response versus, okay, let's try rephrasing the question. And that could open up so many more opportunities.
So many more, truly.
We've talked about this before we hopped on, but I'm very passionate about parenting, childcare. I think if we give our kids the love and the encouragement, the support, and the validation that they deserve right now as kids, then as adults, nothing will faze them. Not in a, oh, you're rude, cocky way, but in a confident, self-assured, full of self-awareness and self-esteem kind of way. And
Completely.
and I think, and so I really struggled as a kid. There's a lot of, childhood neglect. And as I mentioned, I felt really unseen, unheard, misunderstood. And so now here I am. I'm even having a podcast to this point because I'm like, I need to feel like I am seen and heard, and I'd love to share my thoughts. And I finally am climbing out of that hole where I felt like what I said didn't matter, that my thoughts were stupid, that things that I do are wrong. And when I was 12, I moved from Russia to the United States and didn't know any language. And it had to pop me right back in school, and I didn't know any language. And everybody around me spoke English, and I spoke Russian, and it was so hard. And again, I felt misunderstood, unheard. I would try to express myself, but I didn't know the word for it. And it still happens now as an adult, where if I hear a word and I say, what's that word? And they'll say, you don't know what this means. And the way I learned English was through conversation and TV. So when we got here, my mom and dad had to do stuff. My brothers also went to work. And so I went to school as well. And then when I come home, I would watch Disney Channel because it was like my age, right? And so I learned language by watching the shows and interactions on TV. But I struggled, like I said, being heard, being misunderstood. And Disney Channel doesn't talk about, I don't know, names of dinosaurs. So when you hear the name of a dinosaur, you're like, I don't know what that is. Not because I'm stupid or didn't hear it. I probably know the word in Russian, but never heard the translation because it didn't come up on Lizzie McGuire. Now, watching Disney Channel isn't the best way to learn English, but that was what's available to me.
That was brilliant.
Because it shows it's simple enough conversation and back and forth that's set in the setting that I was in. And so to me, it reflected the world. And oh my gosh, there's this. Did you ever watch Lizzie McGuire?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So Lizzie McGuire, Gordo really liked her, right?
For ages.
Right. And then there's this like moment where she's like, oh gosh, I don't know the scene. She's probably closing a locker and she's all, but Gordo's just a friend. Like I would never, like the Hillary Duff like really cut. And that moment stood out so much to me. I was like, oh my God. Maybe that's why I friend zone everybody for a really long time. Because I felt like I needed to live that moment to be able to say like, but he's just a friend. He can't like me. Like there was so much emotion in that and I understood it. And it was such a critical thing. Now to bring it all back. So why I'm so, excited about the childhood, because I feel like for me, if I had better educational shows, perhaps I could have learned more. If I had the speech therapy available where it was on my time, maybe it would have been more, because at school I'd say the wrong thing, or I didn't understand something, and then I was perceived as being stupid because I didn't know what something meant. And I feel like our toddlers, they learn so fast and they know so much. They're just incapable of expressing it yet, but they understand, they get it, they know it so much. My daughter, she's 2. She tells me stories because we started like, hey, you remember this when you were little? She says, yeah, I remember that. So now she goes, Mommy, you remember when Paisley was bebe? We go outside backyard. We saw 3 baby bunnies go hop, hop, hop.
Amazing.
She was 16 months when that happened. I have a video. So she remembers it way back then. So when people say, oh, kids won't remember stuff, I disagree. I think they remember. They just don't know how to tell you yet, or aren't sure if that's something you even talk about. Because if we don't see that set as an example,
I love
do we
that you
even know
point
to
out.
express it?
Do you remember? That's incredible.
Oh, she
Draw their
remembers
awareness
so
and
much.
pull it forward. And even though she saw it on a recording, she now relived it again because we do remember. Our mind and body remember.
She remember, but now she now tells me these stories where she's like, Mommy, you remember when we went to the park and saw this and the baby was sliding on green slide? I'm like, yeah, I remember that. And when we have these moments, even throughout our day, she remembers these moments. One time I was walking to the fridge, I opened, my cup dropped. I said, ooh. And she said, Mommy, what happened? And so I retell her this story over and over, and I say, Mommy was walking to the fridge. I opened the door, but my cup fell out. All the ice came out, and it spilled. I said, oh no. I grabbed the towel, cleaned it up. And then she says, again, I retell her, and then then I'll play like Bunny, Paisley, what story did you hear today? And she said, Bunny, Mommy was walking to the fridge. She opened the door, coffee went down.
Oh, my heart.
I love her so much. But now she narrates everything. Because now she's like,
no.
You know what she reminds me of? Is like a little Food Network show. Because anytime she says, Mommy, what are you doing? I say, okay, here's what Mommy's doing. Mommy's putting a bowl. I'm cutting this way. So now she goes, Mommy, look what Paisley's doing. Paisley's grabbing the bowl. I'm putting the bloobs in, putting water in. I'm going to drain them. It's her favorite activity right now is draining and washing these bloobs. And she walks you through like she's Gordon Ramsay, like she's just ready to... But I'm saying all of this because
adorable.
I love her so much. But she has that passion. She wants to say these things. She wants to express everything. And the incapability is the only thing that's really stopping her. But to move that all forward, I think that creates a lot of the temper tantrum, the struggles that parents have to experience because there's... sometimes we're pulling for control, sometimes we're pulling for attention, and sometimes it's being misunderstood. Often, they said one thing because they were just repeating the last thing you said, but then you heard this other thing, so you did this other thing. They said, no, that's not what I meant. Maybe they can't say that quite yet, and the only thing they can do is cry. But if we can provide that help to help our kids express themselves, whether it be miming, actually talking, asking for help in sign language, developing their own language with their parents, right?
Completely. And you did such a beautiful job of narrating, not only so when people tell me that they're pregnant, I go, great, start talking. And when on that blessed day, they finally arrive. And when you have your little one, to talk with them face to face, because what's happening is there's so much going on with our face. There's so much expression going on with our body. Our words, there's 70+% of research says that 70+% is non-verbal communication. That's a huge amount that is not what we would consider to be expressively coming forward. So there's so much going on between the tonality that you're using, between your body, between your energy and the information coming from your eyes and your face. So much is going on. So the fact that you've narrated so much for her, children love to learn, and they will model you and model you and model you and copy you and copy and copy you, and it's great. And that's what she's doing. And this is where these amazing language skills have come from. And the fact that you self-taught yourself English is absolutely incredible. the fact that you were able to use conversations and TV shows and then go to school and apply it. So it wasn't just information coming in, you were starting to learn also how to communicate in a way that was effective for the other people. And especially when you had mentioned you don't know what that is, and that can, especially when they come at you with that tonality
Right.
of how could you not know? And it's so hurtful to your nervous system. And you're thinking, I'm not stupid. It's incredibly painful for you to experience emotionally because it's questioning the information that you know. So what I often say to people, especially, I grew up with a diagnosis of having a learning disability, and I got labeled in 6th grade, and I thought, I'm stupid. And that was the narration that I held for a number of years. And I had tutors. Thankfully, I had amazing family that were there to support me, to help me get tutors, to bring me to school earlier, to help me stay later so I could learn. I then had to understand and learn in a different way. And it wasn't that I was stupid. I just didn't know what I didn't know.
Right.
And that's okay. And when other people go, how do you not know? You're like, I just don't know.
Right.
But there's a lot of stuff that I know that you might not know, and I'm not going to come at you going, how do you not know that? It's just an area that you haven't learned about, you haven't studied. And it's not so much that you don't know, it's that painful connotation that people can come at you with.
Right.
And it's to understand saying, you know what? I don't know.
Right.
But I tell me more about it. And it's us having to quite literally reframe it for ourselves and remind ourselves we're not stupid. We're actually really smart. Look how far we've come. Oh my goodness. And
I think something that, well, there's a few things. So I saw that I think one of the biggest blessings I've had is having my daughter, and I love her and I want to raise her as who she is. But in that, I have found a lot of self-healing and knowledge into myself and how I can actually heal my inner child and see what I can see. And one time I noticed we had the neighbor's kids playing and she was blowing bubbles, but she was putting the stick next to her lips because that's what she's watching everybody else do. Yeah. And a little bubble got on her lip. And so the neighbor girl said, "You're not supposed to put it in your mouth." And my daughter started crying. And then we settled it all in. And then I talked to my daughter. She didn't know she wasn't supposed to do it, but then being called out like that, she didn't even know how to answer that, but she took it in as she's doing something wrong. And then, right then, I knew, Paisley, when mommy blows bubbles, I put the stick close to my mouth, but not on it. And then I'm going to blow. And now, every step I do, we're doing this pouring. I love pouring with her and she spills and she's getting better and better. And she's so good. She's so good. But she's holding this cup. It's full of blueberries and blueberry juice. And she likes it full because she likes to drain it. Sometimes she likes to talk and it moves around. And so instead of saying, hey, you're spilling it everywhere, it's going this. I hold the cup and I show her, I say, Paisley, look. When I'm tilting it, it's starting to come out. But when I hold it straight, sometimes I like to put my hand over it so the blueberries don't fall out. And as soon as I told her all the specific moves and as to why, she holds it upright and says, Mommy, I'm going to put my hand over it so the blueberries don't fall out and I don't spill. I'm going to hold it over the sink. But it's as soon as she realized and she was told, because there's no way of knowing those things. There's no way knowing that things are on a slope or things pour when we carry them. Because as a kid, you see an adult carry something and it looks effortless. And you try to carry it and it's falling down. And you don't know why because no one said, oh, when I tilt it, when I move something, it'll fall out. And it works with a plate and a cup. But explaining these small things.
Now she knows. World of a difference.
It's explaining those things. And it's because, because I didn't have that. And something that really stood out to me when you were talking, you mentioned that's the narrative you had in your head. And that's the word, narration. The narration I hear in my head is the one of my most critical parents, or those who raised me, and my whole family my brother even had a joke one time. He would just say, you're stupid, over and over again. And as a kid, I remember telling him, I said, if you keep saying that, I'm going to think I'm stupid. And he laughed and kept calling me that. And that's, that's just brotherly, sisterly play. But I know when I make a mistake,
That's what you hear.
I am so hard on myself. And I say, why are you even doing that? What is the point? Who cares? No one really cares what you're doing. It really doesn't matter. You don't matter. I started shaking. I hear it. I hear it in that tone. One time I spilled in. Oh, I feel it coming out. And now when I spill in front of my daughter, I talk to myself and I talk to her and I do it in the way that I want her to always speak to herself. She is my best friend and I would never want anyone to talk to her that way, especially herself. And so when I spill something, I say, hey, that's all right because we can clean that up. We didn't fail. We just need to try again. Will you help me clean it up so we can do it together? And now she was putting blocks together and they were falling. And she said, I'm going to put it in patiently, slowly. And I cried because I'm like, I can't have anyone hurt that tiny soul because she's so self-aware right now. And in that, selfishly, I am healing myself because I wish those things were said to me. Sometimes I wonder, and I have so many friends who are also healing their inner child. But to do that takes time, takes work, and it's a lot of purging emotionally. It's a stop and go. There's a lot of ups and downs, and it sometimes feel like you're really going 2 steps back, 1 step forward, if that. And on some level, I feel like if I didn't have to put in the time, the energy, and the effort to unlearn these things, to unravel this onion of things that I shouldn't have been saying to myself, how much further would I be? And not in a financial, successful, monetary kind of way, but a self-awareness, freedom kind of way. Because I'm just starting to peek at these moments and I tell to myself, I feel like myself right now. There's this clarity and calmness where the judge isn't right here telling me I'm doing horrible. This other judge isn't here telling me I'm stupid or doing things wrong. I have a self-awareness and a self-esteem, and I feel strong where I'm saying I am smart and I am capable and I'm really good at the things that I do and I have a kind heart and I'm putting that forward. But they're scarce, but they're starting to pop out more.
Absolutely.
And I think, I wonder what it's like for the people who were brought up in this really patient, conscious parenting with parents who didn't have any stuff that they had to project onto their kids. What is it like to not have this really twisted yarn of a mess of confused emotions and feelings in your head and just be clear with your decision-making abilities, your problem-solving skills? And another thing I wanted to mention, because you talked about how so much of our communication is nonverbal, and I used a lot of that, I think, when I was trying to communicate with people, but it also reminds me of, oh gosh, what was I going to say? Oh, nope, I forgot. It was a really good point. I'll probably come back to it, but
so when it comes to communication, and I think that there's this emotional intelligence component happening over the last number of years, which is a great thing, because people are starting to have this emotional awareness and saying, I want to parent in a different way, or I want to help in a different way. And I'll have families and clients that will come on, and I'll even be working with a kid and they'll say, I don't want to do this. It's hard. And I look at those as opportunities, or I like to call them, I could look at them as opportunities to help them understand that's okay. It's okay. You're telling me you can't. Yay! I'm so excited. You told me you were having trouble. Or I'm so excited you didn't know if you said that correctly, or whatever they're saying. Because when they're showing us their vulnerability or their pain, their hurt, and their upset, to acknowledge it and say, great, thank you so much for telling me that. I know we can do hard things, right? Because we're really smart. And I will reframe it for them, helping them understand that even though it's a challenge, that it's okay. We can navigate through that, whether it's under, over, around, whatever the case may be, and whatever I'm working on with them. But to be those people that offer these reframes to children that they can understand they can do hard things.
Right.
That it's okay to be sad, that it's okay to be frustrated, it's okay to be angry, and to have that emotional intelligence as a parent, a guardian, an adult, a teacher, whatever the case may be. And parents will often get frustrated. And I know you mentioned earlier about another thing, so I'll circle back to that. But when I'm working with parents, they're going, "This is a problem. This is a problem," and I'm encouraging them to say that it's okay. I understand you're frustrated where your child is. I fully am following your thoughts, but it's okay. You didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
You're not a bad parent. You're not a bad guardian. You're not broken, and you're not hurting them. To then show them this is simply where we are. We're looking at this together. I'm on your team. We can do this together. And offering that understanding that that adult is also seen.
Right.
That they're heard, that their worries are valid, but they're also okay in expressing them here with me and sharing that space. And I'll also offer, in those moments when your child is having a temper tantrum and you're wanting to lose your bananas,
Right.
to have what I like to call a pause and pivot. I've learned it from somewhere else, and I'm pretty sure I did not coin this phrase, but when you can acknowledge that your child is having a meltdown, and rather than getting upset whether they spilt milk on the floor or they didn't get what they wanted, to acknowledge where they are and to pause in that moment and say, okay, I know I have 342,000 other things than cleaning up this mess to do right now, but I have a choice, and I can choose to do my best in this moment, to acknowledge my child, and to be in the situation as present as I can be, and to work through it, to not shame them, to not guilt them, to not have this screaming match. When we as adults and guardians and parents can control our emotional states, we are the dominant one. We are the authority figure in that space. Our child's nervous system, the children that are with us, will calibrate to us because we are the authority. When we can manage our own emotional states, we change our breathing, we change our posture, and we change our tone. We can choose to pivot in a different direction and to have that emotional control, to have that emotional awareness in that situation. And even though your inner brain part of you might be losing bananas, that's okay. Right. We're going to put them on hold. We'll lose our bananas in another room when we're in our own privacy.
Right.
But to show up, start reframing these events, that these children aren't terrible, that they're not bad humans, that they don't have to be punished for spilling milk. It's simply, okay, we'll learn to do it better.
Yeah.
And to approach each situation as best as you can and as calmly as you can, because nobody wants to be in that stress. The child doesn't want to be in that stress. You don't want to be in that stress. To acknowledge it and to do your best to show up. And it truly is an art. This isn't something that will necessarily happen immediately and you'll excel beautifully at it. It's an art. It's a habit, just like we brush our teeth on a daily basis, just like we change our clothes on a daily basis. It's a practice. It's an art. It's a habit. When you make it a part of you like that, it's completely different.
I think there's so much to that, because as we talk about how kids pick up language or any behavior, they look at us, for example. So even when it comes to these situations, they're looking to us to see how to model it. How do we react? And if we're yelling, they accept yelling is okay. And I also was thinking about the fact of kind of perseverance in a way, because I think when I was younger and I would spill, I was told I shouldn't do it, it's going to get taken away from me, and once I failed once, I shouldn't do it again. Therefore, right now, when I do something and it doesn't work, I don't think I should do it again. I don't have that voice. I'm starting to talk to myself now, but I didn't have that voice that says, that's all right that happened. First of all, accidents happen. I think we put so much pressure on toddlers saying, they spill, they do this. I spill as an adult. Like I spill, I do. And it's really okay. I think if you don't want to spill so much, put a little less in.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't want them to throw so much food on the floor, put a little less food in front of them. If you don't want them to splash, if you don't want to get paint somewhere, put them in the bathtub, put them in an inflatable pool. I think as a parent, you can always be responsible and in control. Of course, they're toddlers and they're going to be challenging. Right. But I think there's so much in the idea of where you're saying, oh, I have to talk to the parent, almost parenting them, telling them, hey, it's okay. Because I think, we probably didn't hear that as adults, so now we think we're doing a bad job. And so for us to hear it so then we can tell our kids that it's okay, I think there's a part in there where almost a protective way, let's say if I spilled as a kid and I was yelled at, if I see now my kids spilling, maybe I don't want them getting yelled at like I did. So I say, hey, you don't do that, because in a protective way, maybe I'm thinking because I don't want them to get in trouble. Right? But it comes out in the same way I know how, because that's the only thing I know how. But if you break it, right. So it's the only thing I know. But to me, I always break it. It's like they didn't do anything wrong. And accidents do happen. There was this example I read one time about dealing with anger. And it talked about taking the subject out. So let's say you're in a parking lot, somebody rams their cart into your car. Now you're pissed off at the guy. You're pissed off at the whole thing. What are you going to do? What if the guy wasn't there? What if the cart just rolled? There's no one to blame. There's nothing you can do. And that's with almost everything in our life. Like traffic, what are you going to do? Right? Like, they spilled, let's clean up. Because like you said, everything is practice, whether it's our emotional connection with them or co-regulation, getting down on their level, learning how to talk with them. It's so much more practice for them because they've never done it. So they do need to pour. They do need to spill. They need to learn how to clean up. They need to learn how to talk to themselves, saying, that's all right to make a mistake, because no one in the history of time has gotten it right the first time.
Absolutely. And nobody's perfect.
Right.
This idea of that we have to be perfect. We have to say this perfect R sound, and we can't not do kind of a good job. You're learning. Everybody's learning and everybody's growing and they're expanding, and it's okay to not excel.
Yeah.
The first time or the first 100 times.
Right.
How many times did it take to create the light bulb? How many times did it take to get WD-40?
Anything.
Everything is a work. It is a work in progress. It's an art.
It takes practice to learn how to cook an egg. You know what I mean? And that's just one egg. Right. And we have to practice this as adults, and that's with good motor skills, concentration. We've got good grasp. We understand the weight, the volume of things. They don't know any of that yet, but it's a great time to introduce. But I think getting mad at them isn't reasonable for learning. And something I had a realization of a few weeks ago, but I thought, and you talked about this, but I'm still learning. I think we think, oh, I'm out of school, I'm done learning. I'm still learning every single day. And as she's learning how to be a human and a child, I'm learning how to be a human and a parent. And we talked about this a little briefly before, but there is a lot of mom shaming that you can receive through comments, social media, Reddit threads. And I think on some level, it comes from an insecurity, because when we become a parent, we have to make all these decisions, not only for ourselves, but now for our kid, our family, and so much more. And we aren't fully equipped to do that unless it was modeled to you by your family. And so we start making these choices that we almost have to get really behind on, because we have to persuade ourselves saying what I'm doing is right because it is going to benefit my child. And then you see all these other opinions, so you have to stand stronger saying, no, I'm going to defend my ground, because if you're saying what you're doing is right, that means what I'm saying is wrong. What I'm doing is wrong, and I don't want to be wrong because I'm trying to do my best. Mm-hmm. But it shouldn't come from that lens, right? We shouldn't be defending ourselves against anyone. I think we're so insecure in that because we don't have the village, right? As they did before. There's a lot of shaming, a lot of judgment, because everyone's just trying to project things or avoid their own insecurities. But motherhood, parenthood, living, being self-aware, dealing with your job deciding what to cook for dinner is already hard. Like, we're all doing it. I think one of the greatest things of the internet is memes, because you get one that's out there and everyone's on it. They're like, yes, I feel the same way. I feel like memes connect the world. Like, everyone's like, yeah, I agree. That's right. Like, that egg doesn't come off that pan. I don't know. But everyone really gets on it. And I think it's such a connecting point where I'm like, it was kind of why I like TikTok, because I think TikTok does like video memes and everyone gets behind it. And so everyone's kind of more together, although there's the other side. And you get people in the comments, and it is worse than like the 1700s. Like, instead of putting you in the red square and throwing rocks, like, they emotionally abuse you with comments. I've seen some of my friends post and they get on the other side, and these comments of moms who are like, you're talking about breastfeeding, so you're saying that the formula is wrong, or like, oh, you're doing formula, breastfeeding is the only way. And I'm just like,
there's so
your
much,
kids will probably marry each other.
there's so much need to be right versus wrong,
Right.
rather than
Right.
I'm just going to do it differently, or I'm going to mom my own way. I'm going to parent my own way.
Right.
As a clinician, there's so many different approaches to help a child improve their language, help a child improve their articulation skills, their fluency skills. There's so many different tools and techniques. And if you can create your own toolbox of tools and techniques that work for you and your family, that for me, these techniques that I have learned to help my clients improve whatever it is that they're improving on, ultimately, did we get the outcome we wanted? Did we get to where we wanted to go? It doesn't have to be, when I was trained in graduate school, it had to be very, very specific. And that was okay. That was the time that I needed to learn those tools to be very specific. But to say that this is the only way, that's not true. And it wasn't true then. This was simply where I was at the time.
Right.
And now that I know more, I can train and I can help and I can serve differently. And I will serve differently. It doesn't mean that their way is right or wrong. It doesn't mean that my way is right or wrong. These are just tools and techniques. This helps me get to my outcome that I'm wanting. And if I learn a new way, I learn something new, great.
Yeah.
I'll take it into my toolbox and I will carry it with me, because what ultimately matters is, am I able to help them get where they want to go?
Right.
And then in my own family, am I able to get to where we want to go? That's
Right.
all it is. And people are so stressed out going, mom this way and dad this way and parent this way and guardian this way. Do ultimately what works for you.
Right.
It is your path, your journey, your family. Shut out the noise
Yeah.
and find things that work for you.
I think we often forget about circumstances, and we're so locked up living in our own world. Essentially, our house or your job office, wherever you spend most of your time is your little bubble. And then your outreach is probably social media. But essentially, you hang out with your family that probably has the same values, same opinions, maybe your friends who probably also share your values and opinions. And then when you see this other world out there, it's just gonna whoa, blow your mind.
Very much so.
But other people are living in other circumstances. If we're talking about housing, somebody might have a mansion with this beautiful kitchen and somebody living in a trailer. So when you're talking about raising kids, one parent has a large kitchen to put their kids around in, and another one is dealing in a small kitchen next to the bedroom with the kid right there. So it's like, oh yeah, you're both cooking dinners, but the circumstances that you're currently in are different. And it might look like if it's a one parent, two parent household, if the grandparents are nearby, if mom or dad are working in-house or out-house, and we're all just trying to do our best.
Truly.
We all are just trying to do our very best. I did this kind of, not test, but I posted a video about, I like cleaning with my daughter around so she can see it. She helps me now. We put them all in. We make it a game. So I posted one about that. And I got some comments who were like, you got to let your child play. It's okay to be messy. And I was like, that's so true. Because sometimes I give myself a little anxiety about how it has to be clean, especially when you see social media really aesthetically, cute videos. And you're like, I've got diapers on the floor. And so you try to achieve that a little bit. And so then I posted another one where I had some videos, clips of like really messy times. And so I posted it and I said, it's okay if your house looks like a kid lives there, because a kid does live there. And then I got other comments. Now people are on the other way and they're like, you're such a pig. I can't believe you live like this. How dare you should teach her. And so it's like and as a content creator, I do this to myself. So whatever video I put out, of course it's going to get the feedback. Mm-hmm. But everyone is so eager to jump one way or the other, defending their way. Somebody was like, my room never looked like that and my kids never looked like that. And it's like, okay, great. This was for the people who feel overwhelmed, and you can explain it either way. It's just how fast and aggressive people are about saying, yeah. I had a video of, I was just shopping. I had my daughter in the cart with me, and I like these frozen pizzas. They're cauliflower crust from Annie's, and I just put like mushrooms on them, bell peppers, whatever. I think they're easy to make for me. And so there were 7 of them in the cart because it's frozen food. I like to buy a lot of it and just put it in my freezer. And the comments, my baby was a baby and still breastfeeding at the time. The comments, I feel so bad for that baby. I can't believe she's eating so much frozen pizza. I'm like, the pizzas, why are you buying so many for one child? And I'm just like, they're frozen. And for me, how do you guys buy one pizza at a time to put in your freezer? Why are you mad at me for her eating pizza? And it's like the healthiest pizza if she was eating, but she's not eating. Like, but people got so mad and they were so sure that like, I'm this terrible mom feeding these frozen pizzas, 7 of them at a time to my daughter. And it's like,
it's a lot.
Whoa.
And I think as people who are wanting to be of service, who are wanting to share a message with the world, who are wanting help and to share information from a sincere place, and then to be met with other things. And there's, no matter what, there's always 2 sides to everything.
Right.
You might see this clip of something absolutely pristine, but there is still another side to it. You can slice it however you want. No matter what, there's always going to be one group that will be positive, right, and one group that will be less than positive, or one perspective that will have this and one perspective that will have that. It can't not happen. No matter how thin you slice the atom, you can't not have another side to the atom. So it's truly just one of those things where to say, okay.
Have a good day. Like, good on ya. Good for. It's silly because one of my love languages is service. Like, I'm service through and through. Oh, I finally remember that idea about the emotional. Okay, so because we talked about how a lot of communication is nonverbal, and so I'm still rambling this idea in my head, but I'll spit it out and we can maybe put it together in the pizza that it is. So I often describe myself as a very empathic person, empathetic, full of empathy, where I can read people's emotion in a room. I can really adjust myself kind of before it happens. You can really, really read their energy without any words said. You really know what's going on between them, the motions, the weight of the footsteps, the way, like really break it down, and you really can tell. And recently I've learned more that it's not necessarily empathy, but a defense mechanism, because if you lived in a chaotic environment, you learned a survival technique, not to anger anyone, so there isn't an explosion. You kind of learn to read the room, and the more aggressive things are, the probably more specific and precise you are about things, right? Because then you're like, oh, did they open this thing? Let me make sure this is done so this doesn't happen. This, like you try to prevent everything. And as I'm learning this, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so much work. I love the fact that I can read people, but I hate that it comes from that bad place. And what I don't want is for kids to learn that, because like you said, they're picking up so much and they can learn so much. And so when we aren't even talking to them, so let's say we're not saying bad things, but we're shutting things and throwing things, they can pick up on that too. And then I think it was leading back to my idea of then I learned that when I do something not right the first time, I shouldn't do it again. Attitude, which isn't right. And I know that mentally. I know that when I break it down is that each time isn't a failure. It's a step forward. The only way I could have learned it is if I didn't do it right this time, so I can learn to do it better. I love learning. I've always loved learning, but somewhere I told myself that I'm not good enough. I need to stop and all of that. And what I don't want is my daughter to have any of those thoughts. They are not valuable. They're taking up my time and space, and I'm happy to learn about them, but I want to unravel this mess that's in my head so my daughter never has to deal with that. I think that's our, job as parents, is to protect our kids from harm. And it's figuring out, is it coming from school? Is it coming from self-talk? Is it coming from artificial dyes or allergies? Or I just watched this artificial dye video and now I'm,
There's a lot to being human and to having emotions, and the emotional intelligence and the emotional awareness that we're cultivating, especially for what I feel like is people in our age group, people in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s, are having this emotional awareness, the shift. And there is a shift in the culture, which is a great thing. This is a good thing to talk about and to acknowledge that we are always doing our best with the tools, time, and energy available to us. This is something that one of my coaches has said to me a number of times. We really are always doing our best. And even if you're in the middle of a meltdown, you're still doing your best. With the tools, time, energy, and knowledge available to you. And I think we need to allow ourselves a bit more grace and a bit more permission to feel into certain things and to find ways to express them and to also find ways to help ourselves so that we can be better adults, that we can be better friends, better parents, better guardians, and help raise healthier, more emotionally intelligent, and genuinely kind people in this world.
Right. I did this episode for Paisley's Corner about emotions. So it's all toddler emotions. And I wrote it down where I wanted it to be staged as like a day in a toddler's life, if you will. So it's full of playing and coloring, but I wanted to name all the emotion, which was kind of new to me. And I think I learned along the way to name my emotions. And so first, I'm excited to play with everybody. Then I grab I'm like, let's color together. Then I get so many toys because I'm so excited. Then I say, I'm overwhelmed. Let's clear it up. Because I do tips of like how to help deal with those certain things. If it's overwhelming, let's declutter.
Yeah.
Then I'm coloring. I'm so excited to color. It breaks. I'm disappointed. Okay, if it's disappointed, let's take a break. Oh, let's go outside and play. Okay, let's do bubbles, take deep breath. Then I fall. Now I'm sad. Then I was frustrated with the toy, so I can ask for help. And the video's probably 36 minutes. I name about 20 emotions and 22 tips of how to deal with them. And essentially, it was just like, if you looked at it, it looked like a day in a toddler's life. A little coloring, a little playing, a little blowing bubbles. But I really, as I did it, I was like, oh my gosh, it's a roller coaster to actually name every emotion. Yeah. I went through 22 emotions within 30 minutes. And that's labeling them, dealing with them, addressing them, openly talking about them. And toddlers do that every day, and that's not 30 minutes, full 12-hour day. Adults do it. Yeah. And when it comes to saying, hey, how are you? Hey, good, right? We don't say, oh, I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now. I'm feeling really frustrated. And so now I've started also implementing them and making sure I'm naming my emotions so my daughter can learn and see it. But it's incredible to see what they can witness and see, because I did this whole baby's playing, baby hit. This other baby says, we don't hit our family and friends. And now my daughter's playing, baby hit, we don't hit our family and friends, baby. Right? And so picking up on those emotions, naming them. She's so sweet because she loves watching the emotions video, but she says there's scary parts when mommy feels frustrated. So she says, mommy, I close my eyes. I close my eyes when you're frustrated. okay, mommy, it's good. But she wants to watch it, and you can see it calculating and calibrating her that, like, because I've never been upset around my daughter, really. I think maybe twice. She's light of my joy. I love her so much. And I think this is kind of her first time really seeing, oh, mommy experiences the emotions, and she's dealing with them to kind of keep going through. But really modeling each step, walking through it, and you can see kind of concreting where now, like I said, when she was playing, she says, I'm going to try patiently, right? And putting that to work.
Quite literally see her neural pathways building.
You can see it clicking off. And then she's like, we have all these toys. They all have a different personality. She's like, mommy, get teddy bear. Teddy bear says, hey, how are you doing? She says, teddy bear, I just did this. I put this around. I put this on the circle. I couldn't get it off. It got stuck. Paisley felt frustrated. I'm going to try again. And I'm just like, ooh, if I had that emotional intelligence, if everybody were just loved and heard and had the tools to, because I don't even have the way of expressing myself yet, right? And I'm an adult. I'm 32. And I still can't even stand up for myself when people come at me on a Reddit post. And I'm like, you guys are right. I'm like, right? I don't even have that stamina to even say I'm okay. Like I said, I have those glimpses and I'm learning. But imagine the world, like, where the kids are so certain, so peaceful, can understand, can express and communicate. I think there would be less negative comments and that feeling like you have to defend your choice and really stand by and really argue. Yes, they are going to be there, but I think helping raise emotionally intelligence, and like you said, we see it on the rise, right? Because people like you and me, we're saying, hey, we got to change something. Because of the way I'm talking to myself, and this is my tiny best friend, why would I want anyone to talk to my husband says the sweetest thing when I'm mean to myself. He says, stop being mean to my wife. And it gets me every time, like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what you're cultivating. So especially not only with your daughter and in your home, but also in your community where you're showing up and you're offering this. You're offering people another perspective, something different, a moment to pause, pivot, and choose again, to choose emotional intelligence, to choose to be kind. We quite literally are in our heads all the time.
Oh my God.
All the time.
It's like the busiest place.
What we say to ourselves, and we do go through so many emotional things, and it is, whether you want to call it reparenting or healing your inner child or healing that inner critic, whatever we want to call it, whatever label you give it,
right?
You're talking to yourself constantly, and the awareness that we're talking to ourselves is great. How do you want to talk to yourself?
Right.
And then how do you want your loved ones to talk to themselves?
Right.
One of the people in my life, if they hear me say something negative about myself, like if I would say like, oh, you're so stupid, they go, did you just say that about yourself? And they call me out on it, which is a great thing because they're calling me out, not in a shameful way, not in a guilting way, not in a, yeah, you are. They're calling me out to remind me that it matters. Right. How we communicate with ourselves, how we communicate with others matters.
Right.
And it's a great thing that we're starting to see this shift because we want to live in as peaceful as a place as we can possibly live. It's not to say bad things won't happen. This is simply a choice that is saying bad things may happen, but I can choose again, and I can choose to focus over here, and I can choose to bring as much kindness and sincerity and helpfulness and joy to this moment as possible.
Right.
And if other people want to focus on that less than positive, that's okay. You're just choosing something different. It's not right. It's not wrong. You're choosing something different, and that's okay. I'm choosing something different, and that's
There's
okay.
A beauty in that, and we love that. When we watch things, we see something different. We're like, oh my gosh, I love that idea, right? Like, and if I'm being honest, when I see something and rubs me the wrong way, I now start asking, why did it matter to me? What's the trigger? And I've been learning more about triggers, I heard this person talk about how triggers are like a bruise. Because if someone's just poking you for the first time, you're like, okay, stop poking me. But if they're poking the bruise somewhere that somebody kept doing, or maybe you said stop and they didn't, maybe you felt misheard, belittled, whatever that energy, whatever that circumstance, whatever that event or multiple events, somebody just did something or said it in that same tone or did it to remind you of it. And that's why it hurts so much, because you feel like, not again. You feel like the abuser is back, right? You shut down a little inside. It's even worse because if you're your own abuser at this point, right?
Absolutely.
And you're the bully in your head being so mean to yourself. I hate how mean I am to myself. I'm really turning it around. But goodness, like if I ever heard someone talk this way to a friend of mine, I would be really upset. Like, how dare you say something like that to another human? And then you think, wow, my goodness, why am I talking to? I am my best friend. I love me. I should love me. I'm here. I'm here for a reason. I matter. But to even say those things sometimes are so hard for me, where it's like, even something we talked about, you said letting our kids know we can do hard things, and seeing that little failure, not succeeding, as an opportunity to do it again, to do it better, to finally learn, to really concretely grasp the knowledge, and turning it around. And I mentioned is like one of the affirmations to deal with frustration or being nervous in the emotions video. And I say, I can do hard things. And since then, I think that emotions video helped me more than anything, because now I'm naming my emotions. I'm saying,
That's
I
awesome.
can do hard things. I am loved and I am enough. I'm still always trying to overcompensate and be overly productive. My husband just said toxic productivity, which I want to lean into, because I think between the ADHD and people pleasing and empathy, and you can see where I stand. And me constantly having to do things, I think I probably fall into that category, and I think it's a defense mechanism that I need to explore, because I'm not doing it for a healthy reason. I'm doing it to suppress or to deal or to, right? And I want to explore that, because I never want something to come out on my daughter, right? Like, because if we have triggers, we don't know about them. If it happens, it's hard to even deal with them, because we weren't taught as kids, at least I wasn't, to manage them properly, to name and say, like you said, it's okay. Hey, that's all right. Yeah, you feel that way. I feel that way too. It sucks feeling that way, man. Oh, it sucks. You know what we can do is we can sit here together. I'll just sit here and I'll listen to you. We don't have to talk. We can draw. We don't have to do anything. We can drink some water. I can tell you a story if you want to take your mind off of it. But I'm going to be right here, right next to you. So you can lean on me, you can cry on me, you can hug me.
It's okay to feel it. It's okay to be in that moment, and to not have to rush over or Band-Aid over it, or try and get away from it and rainbows and sugars and sunshine over it. It's okay to acknowledge it, to process it. We are absolutely magnificent beings, and we have so much intelligence within us and so much energy that we have yet to really have the full capacity to understand what we have the ability to do. Right. And we are as far as we are now, which is amazing, but we still are evolving and we're still growing. And it's okay to feel into your emotions. It's okay to process the emotion. It's okay to process the energy. It's okay to move through it, and to not stuff it under the rug, and to not act like it's fine. Because we've now seen people who have stuffed it under the rug and who have said that it's fine when it's not fine. We're seeing that. We know what has happened.
Right.
Let's try something different. It's not that way wasn't right or wrong. It wasn't good or bad. We're just trying something different now.
I think along the lines of that, the next step, at least for myself in this journey, is really learning how to actually forgive from my heart, because I think I want to say that I have forgiven. I understand that the way things that happened nobody knew any better. Everybody did their best in the circumstances that they were given. Everyone tried their best. I am here right now. I am still learning, growing every day, but I I get there through talking to it, which again, as anything else, takes practice. It takes practice to learn our emotions. We learn the ABCs. We need to learn emotions. We learn numbers and counting. We need to learn how to process the emotions. And instead of crumbling them up, which fills up space, we need to fold them nicely so they are not occupying too much space. They are neatly folded and stored, and they are not forgotten. They are there, but they aren't occupying the space where things are crumbled.
Beautifully
And
said.
oh, thank you. I love talking to people and learning. Like there's this exchange. There's this, you're. But I think back to the kid. There's so much because as kids, everything we kind of learned, then we carry it out to adults, right? And then we start our own family. We're just trying to figure things out. Then our kids growing up, then we're kind of old and we're all looking back trying to figure out what the heck happened. Did the laundry matter? Did the bedtime matter? Did the naps matter? Did the clothes and we're all just trying to do our best and we're all communicating and I my daughter has this box with different colored balls. The playpen balls. We do this activity. She puts them in. Anyways, it's a box. And I grabbed one out and it was red. And I thought, if I ever meet a person on their red day, if I'm having an encounter with a person and it's a red moment, I think since I pulled out a red ball, that box is probably full of red balls. But when I look inside, it's yellow, it's blue, it's green. It might have been the only red ball in there. That red ball doesn't define that person if that person was a box, right? It was just a moment that we all have. But then we speculate this idea and we throw and project this idea that, hey, that box is full of red balls. That's just a red box. They're mean. They're angry. That is awful. But that's not real, right? We do meet people along the way who are a little bit more angrier because maybe they're dealing with there's a lot of veterans who are angry, but like you can imagine, they had to do things we would never see. There's people who are dealing with problems, health issues, just getting up in the morning is really hard for them. So when they have to wait a little bit extra, they have less patience. But we take these moments and we amplify them, right? We say, oh, you're that red person. I hate them. And what if it was the only red ball in that box? We don't take the time to look in. We don't take the time to explore and see what's else out there, or to even ask, like, hey there, red ball, you all right? Right? Well, you want a drink of water?
You need any.
Right. Just show a little kindness, because sometimes you see it, people are faced with cruelty every single day in whatever level that means to them. Sometimes being ignored by their partner is cruel enough. Let's say their love language is affection. They don't receive any of it at home. They're already stressed because they think, hey, my best friend doesn't even love me right now. They haven't gave me a hug, whatever. That looks different for every person. And I think we're maybe just so busy in our lives that it's hard to say, oh, I'm going to go and explore and take a look in your box. What you got? You got green, blue balls? I have green and blue balls. You like those things too? That's really cool. And that's just, I guess that's just humanity. I don't know if there's.
Hopefully it's evolving. But I think with people who are showing up the way that you're showing up, are offering an alternative. Just by even offering that example and saying, maybe the person that helped me with my coffee isn't a complete box of red, harsh energy. Maybe they were just having a bad day. Maybe before I came in, they spilled something in the morning, they woke up late and they tripped on their way in and they're just having a few bad minutes.
Right.
It's not me. It's not them. It's just where they are.
Right.
And to allow people to be where they are and to let them know that you are able to help if they would like help. If not, that's okay too.
Here for a minute. Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Okay. Perfect. Lenora, it is after 11, so I gotta go see my daughter. I loved having a conversation with you. I feel like we could have dove in more into SLP, like more speech things. I'd love to have you on for the other part of your life as well. We can also do another one for the speech. I absolutely love talking to you, so I'd love to schedule something else.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Where can people find you if they are looking for you before I let you go?
For speech therapy services, we are online at betterspeech.com, and we offer a complimentary consultation. So if anybody's ever awake at 2 a.m. and wondering if speech and language skills are on par or what's going on, you don't have to wait 6 months to speak with a clinician. You can call us the very next day. You can schedule an appointment, even online at the betterspeech.com website, and we will reach out to you and we will offer you as much guidance and information as possible.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me.
I love talking to you.
Right back at you.
Here, I'll close this down and I have a few more comments for you. Here we go. Thank you everybody for watching. Come on back next week because I'm really excited. I took some time off, like I said, from this podcast, but goodness, I missed it. I hope you guys all have a very good day. I hope your days are full of delicious coffee. I hope you receive good news. I hope if you take a shower, it's the perfect temperature. I hope your good friend texts you and wishes you a good day. And I hope something just amazing happens and brings you a big smile on your face. I love you. Have a good one. I'll see you next time.